I never expected that an ordinary Saturday evening with a wine glass in hand would lead to the kind of night that still lingers on my skin whenever I close my eyes. I went to the wine tasting hoping for a distraction. Maybe a good Cabernet, a quiet conversation, and a moment to forget how long it had been since someone looked at me like I mattered. But when he walked into the room, wearing a blazer that clung too well to his broad shoulders and a quiet confidence that filled the air before he even spoke, I suddenly forgot why I was there in the first place. It only took one glance, one shared smile over the rim of a tasting glass, to know the evening was about to become anything but ordinary. The venue was small, elegant, tucked away behind ivy-covered walls in a quiet corner of the city. Inside, candlelight flickered across dark wood panels, and soft jazz poured through the speakers like it had nowhere better to be. The room was warm with conversation, gentle laughs, murmured compliments about the wine, clinking glasses that seemed to speak a language of their own. I arrived alone, as I often did these days, more comfortable with solitude than risking another forgettable date. I liked wine because it was slow, deliberate, a little like me. You couldn't rush it. You had to let it breathe. I had just swirled a deep red in my glass when he appeared beside me. He didn't speak at first, just smiled, nodding politely before reaching for the same bottle I had just sampled. His fingers brushed the neck of it with a confidence that suggested he knew exactly what he liked. "Good choice," I said, breaking the silence. He turned to me, that smile deepening. "I trust the man who swirled it like he meant it." I laughed, a real one, not the kind I offered out of politeness. "Well then, we're off to a good start." He introduced himself as Michael, 51, architect, twice divorced, no kids, very much single. His voice was low and warm, like honey over gravel, and when he spoke, I listened, not just because he was handsome, but because his words carried weight, like he meant them. I told him I was Gregory, 54, a freelance writer who lived alone and liked mornings more than people. He smiled at that. "You don't seem like someone who dislikes people." "I don't," I replied. "I just like people who aren't pretending to be someone they're not." His eyes lingered on mine, and something unspoken passed between us. We tasted 4 wines together before the conversation turned more personal. Travel, favorite books, the way we both secretly hated wine snobs but loved watching them swirl and sniff like they were deciphering a code. He had a dry wit, a thoughtful rhythm to his words. I liked that he didn't rush his stories. I liked even more that he seemed interested in mine. At one point, our hands touched as we reached for the same tasting notes, and neither of us moved away. Just a brush, skin against skin, but it was enough to send a shiver straight through my spine. The longer we stood there, the closer we seemed to drift. Our laughter turned quieter, more private, until it felt like the crowded room had faded around us. My shoulder brushed his, and he didn't lean away. When I leaned in to whisper something about the earthy tones of the Merlot, he didn't move either. If I had to describe the energy between us, I'd call it restrained fire. There was heat, but it sat just beneath the surface, civil, smoldering, waiting for a spark to let it out. When the host announced the final wine, we were already standing shoulder to shoulder. I could feel the warmth of his body without even touching him, and something about that proximity made every sip taste richer. "I haven't enjoyed an evening like this in a long time," he said, his voice quieter now. "Neither have I," I replied, feeling my pulse in my throat. He hesitated before speaking again. "Would you like to share a cab?" There was no question in his eyes, only invitation. I nodded. "I'd like that very much." And just like that, the temperature of the night shifted. The ride to his place started with silence, but it wasn't the kind that felt awkward or unsure. It was thick with something else, like the still moment before lightning strikes, when the air feels charged and your skin anticipates something it can't yet name. We slid into the back seat of the cab, our thighs barely brushing, but neither of us shifted away. The driver asked for the address, and Michael gave it in a calm voice, though I caught the slight edge of nervous energy behind his words. He wasn't immune to this tension either. That comforted me somehow. I wasn't the only one holding my breath. Outside, the city passed by in streaks of gold and shadow, but inside, it felt like time had narrowed to the small space between our shoulders. His cologne lingered in the air, clean, subtle, with something woodsy beneath it, and I found myself turning my head slightly, just to take more of it in. "You taste wine like someone who's done it before," he said finally, his voice low, close to my ear. "I have," I replied, matching his tone. "But never while someone looked at me like you did." He smiled at that, just a small turn of the lips, but it reached his eyes. He looked at me fully now, and I did the same. And for a second, we just held the gaze. No words, no smiles, just eyes meeting, heavy with meaning. When he reached out and placed a hand on my knee, it was the most natural thing in the world. My breath caught, and I didn't stop him. His fingers rested there gently at first, not gripping, not moving, just being there, steady and warm. I covered his hand with mine, letting my thumb move in small, slow circles over his skin. His other hand reached up to adjust my collar, smoothing it with a kind of tender attention that felt too intimate for a cab, but also not enough. "You feel like someone who doesn't rush things," he said, his thumb brushing just beneath my jaw. "I don't," I replied. "But tonight, I'm afraid I want to break that rule." His smile faded into something more serious. "I was hoping you'd say that." He leaned in, close enough that his breath touched my cheek, but he paused before our lips met. "Hey, thanks for watching until this point. Please leave a comment if you're enjoying the video. It really helps us grow the channel and reach more people. And hey, thank you very much. Let's get back to story." He waited for consent, for connection, and when I tilted toward him, just slightly, he met me there. The first kiss was slow, exploratory, his lips warm and firm against mine, tasting faintly of red wine and need. We kissed like we'd waited too long for something we hadn't known we were missing. Our mouths moved gently, then with more pressure, and then again with restraint as we forced ourselves to remember where we were. His hand slid up my thigh, not rushed, not forceful, just a path he wanted to learn. I let my fingers trace the side of his neck, feeling his pulse flutter against my touch. There was heat in his movements, yes, but also care, curiosity, reverence. "I want to take my time with you," he murmured, his forehead pressed to mine. "But I also want to start tonight." We didn't kiss again for the rest of the ride, but we stayed close. His hand stayed on my leg, mine on his. When the cab pulled up to his building, neither of us moved immediately. "You sure?" he asked, one last time, his eyes searching mine. "I've never been more." We stepped out, the night air cool on our flushed faces. The building was old but elegant, tucked on a quiet street lined with trees. He unlocked the door and gestured me in with a soft smile. The elevator ride was quiet, but our fingers laced together. No words, just that growing, humming heat. When we reached his floor, he paused outside his apartment door, looked at me once more, and then leaned in again, this time kissing me like the night was finally allowed to begin. And once we stepped inside, it did. The door shut behind us with a quiet click, sealing the night into something intimate, something real. We stood in the soft glow of the hallway light for a moment, facing each other like we were still trying to believe this was happening. His apartment was warm and tasteful, bookshelves lined the wall, a wine rack sat in the corner, and smooth jazz played low in the background, like the evening had been scripted for us from the very beginning. Michael stepped closer, his fingers brushing mine as he whispered, "Can I take your coat?" I nodded, letting him slide it from my shoulders, his hands grazing the back of my neck in a way that made me shiver. He hung it gently on the hook near the door, then turned to face me again, that same look in his eyes, desire laced with care. "I feel like I've known you longer than an evening," he said, stepping forward, hands finding my waist. "Maybe we have," I whispered. "Maybe we've just been waiting for the right night." We met again in a kiss, deeper now, less hesitant. My hands slid over his chest, feeling the strength beneath the soft fabric of his shirt while his fingers trailed along my spine, pulling me closer until there was no space between us. His mouth moved with purpose, slow at first, then hungrier as our bodies pressed together. He guided us through the living room, never breaking the kiss until the backs of my knees touched the edge of the couch. I sat and he followed, straddling my lap, his hands in my hair now, his lips moving from my mouth to my neck. Every touch felt like fire and silk all at once. My palms ran along his back, learning every line of muscle, every dip and rise. He moaned softly when I kissed the hollow of his throat, and I felt his breath catch, his hips shift just slightly. "I've forgotten what this feels like," he murmured, his forehead pressed to mine. "To want someone like this. I don't think I've ever felt this," I admitted, my hands cupping his face. He kissed me again, slower this time, more deliberate, as though he wanted to memorize the shape of my lips. We moved together, bodies finding a rhythm that felt effortless, like music we both somehow knew. Soon, he stood and held out a hand. "Come with me." I followed him down a short hallway into his bedroom where warm light spilled across a neatly made bed. He turned to face me and began unbuttoning his shirt, slowly, watching me the entire time. I followed suit, removing mine, each layer shedding more than just fabric. Walls came down with every piece of clothing. We stood bare in the quiet for a moment, taking in the sight of one another, the vulnerability, the beauty of it. I reached out, my fingers running down his chest, feeling the shiver that passed through him. He stepped forward, cupping my face again, kissing me as our bodies touched fully, skin to skin, heart to heart. He guided me to the bed, gently laying me back as he climbed beside me. We kissed again, lips slow and wet, hands roaming, exploring, discovering. His mouth moved to my chest, my stomach, every inch of me marked by the warmth of his lips. I returned the favor, my hands tracing the muscles of his back, pulling him closer, wanting him everywhere at once. There were gasps, soft moans, whispered words that neither of us would remember clearly later, but would carry in feeling. When we finally made love, it was like breathing for the first time in years. It wasn't about performance or perfection, it was raw, real, and deeply human. Afterward, we lay tangled in each other's arms, the sheets twisted around our legs, sweat cooling on our skin. I could feel his heartbeat under my palm, steady and sure. "Tell me I'm not dreaming," he said quietly, his hand stroking my back. "If you are," I whispered, "then don't wake up yet." We lay there, not speaking, not needing to, just listening to the quiet rhythm of a night that had turned into something unforgettable. The room was still dim when I opened my eyes, the soft morning light just beginning to slip through the cracks in the curtains. For a moment, I didn't move. I just lay there, soaking in the warmth of the body curled against mine and the faint scent of wine, skin, and linen that lingered in the sheets. Michael was still asleep, his arm draped over my waist, his face relaxed in a way that made him look younger, softer. His breath, slow and even, tickled my neck every time he exhaled. I could feel the slight rise and fall of his chest against my back, and I smiled, not because of what we'd done, but because of how it had felt. There was no awkwardness, no need to tiptoe or pull away. Just peace. A rare, quiet kind of closeness that made the air in the room feel heavier, in a good way, like it was holding us there for just a little longer. I turned slowly to face him, brushing a bit of hair from his forehead. He stirred, blinking up at me with that same sleepy warmth I had felt in his hands last night. "Good morning," he murmured, voice gravelly and thick with sleep. "Good morning," I whispered back, unable to stop myself from leaning in for a slow, tender kiss. His lips moved against mine lazily, like he wasn't in a rush to let go of the night. When he pulled back, he smiled and ran a hand down my side, settling it at my hip. "I wasn't sure if you'd still be here. Now, why would I leave?" I asked, genuinely puzzled. He looked away for a second, then back at me. "Because sometimes things like last night are just that, a night." "Not this time," I said firmly. "This wasn't just sex. It was connection. And I don't want to pretend otherwise." The relief in his eyes was unmistakable. We lay there a while longer, limbs tangled, trading soft kisses and quiet thoughts. Eventually, he pulled the blanket up around us and sighed. "I'm not usually like this," he said. "I don't open up quickly. I've spent a lot of years keeping people at arm's length." "You don't need to explain," I told him. "But I'm glad you let me close." He nodded slowly, and there was a pause, comfortable, thoughtful, before he added, "It wasn't just your lips I wanted last night. It was you. Your presence. Your voice. The way you saw me without needing to fix me." I felt that. Deeply. Because that's what it had been for me too. A night of being seen. Of being touched, yes, but more than that, of being understood without needing to say everything aloud. We finally got up late that morning, pulling on loose clothes, brewing fresh coffee in his kitchen. We moved around each other like we'd done this before, like our bodies had already memorized the rhythm of shared space. He handed me a mug, fingers brushing mine, and said, "You know, I could get used to this." I took a slow sip and smiled over the rim. "I think I already am." Later, I sat on his couch while he played music from his vinyl collection. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. The silence between us was rich like aged wine. It didn't fill space, it defined it. That evening, when it was time to leave, he walked me to the door, but didn't look sad. He just leaned in, kissed me slowly, and whispered, "Come back tomorrow." I didn't even think before answering. I was going to ask if I could. The door closed behind me, but the feeling of him stayed wrapped around me like a second skin. The next day bled into the next week, and somehow, without either of us labeling it, a rhythm formed. It wasn't dramatic or rushed. It was just easy. Every morning I spent at his place felt less like a sleepover and more like waking up where I was meant to be. He'd make coffee, I'd make eggs. We'd share stories across the table, feet brushing beneath it, trading smirks and glances like teenagers in love. Except this time, we both knew what it meant to want someone with depth, not just desire. Michael had a habit of touching me in small ways, his fingers grazing my lower back when he passed by me in the hallway, his palm gently resting on my chest when we sat on the couch, his thumb brushing mine while we waited in line for groceries. None of it was loud, none of it was for show, but every touch stayed with me longer than I expected. One night, about a week after our first, he invited me to another wine tasting. Smaller this time, more private, hosted by a friend of his who owned a boutique winery just outside the city. We drove out together as the sun began to set, his hand resting on my knee the entire ride, like it belonged there. When we arrived, the place was quiet, warm, and filled with low laughter and the scent of oak and fruit. The hostess greeted us like she'd known Michael forever and gave us the best seats in the room. 2 cozy stools at the far end of the bar, nestled in shadow and candlelight. As we tasted each pour, we slipped into that same gentle rhythm we'd found on our first night. This time, though, we weren't strangers anymore. Our comments came with inside jokes, with laughter that pulled us closer, with looks that said more than any flavor note ever could. "This one's a little too dry," I said, swirling the red in my glass. He smirked, leaning close. "That's what you said last time, but you still finished it." "I don't waste what's good," I replied, eyes locked on his. There it was again, that smoldering restraint between us. We could have leaned in, could have kissed right there, but we didn't. We held the tension, stretched it out like a fine vintage, savoring every slow second. As the night wore on and the crowd thinned, his hand slid over my thigh under the bar. Not rushed, not bold, just enough to make me shiver. "We should go," he whispered in my ear. I nodded, heart pounding, body already aching for the next chapter. The ride home was a repeat of that first one. But this time, there was no hesitation, no question. We knew what waited on the other side of his door, but we didn't rush it. In the cab, we kissed again, deeper than ever, our bodies curving toward each other instinctively. His hands roamed over me with slow confidence, like he'd memorized every place I wanted to be touched. My mouth explored the skin just below his ear, and I felt his body react in waves, his breath hitching, his hips pressing just slightly forward, his hands gripping me tighter. By the time we stumbled through his front door, our shirts were halfway untucked, our minds clouded by wine and longing. But it wasn't about being drunk. It was about finally letting go. Clothes fell away like leaves in the wind. We moved through his apartment wrapped around each other, hands never breaking contact, lips always searching. On the living room floor, against the wall, and finally in his bed, we made love again. Slow, thorough, unapologetically tender. This time, it wasn't the heat of discovery. It was the depth of connection. Afterward, we lay in silence again, his hand on my chest, my fingers running slowly through his hair. The windows were open, and a breeze carried the scent of the night through the room. "I didn't think I'd feel this way again," he said quietly. "Neither did I," I whispered. "But here we are." He smiled against my skin, kissed my shoulder, and whispered, "Stay, always." And I did. Weeks turned into months the way wine deepens in a barrel. Slowly, patiently, with richness gathering in places we hadn't expected. What started as a glance across a crowded room had grown into something neither of us had dared to hope for anymore. We weren't men chasing romance, we were men who had nearly stopped believing in it. And then somehow, through sips and glances and touches that lingered, we'd found each other. Michael began leaving small things at my place. His spare reading glasses, a book he thought I'd love, a bottle of wine we'd both liked but hadn't finished. I started keeping my toothbrush in his bathroom, using his robe in the mornings, learning which cabinet held the cinnamon and which held the tea. We never announced it, but we both knew we were building something. Not just routines. A home. Our conversations deepened too. He told me about his father, long gone, and how he always wished he could have shown him this version of himself, settled, happy, held by another man without shame. I told him about my failed attempts at love, how I'd always felt too much or too careful, like no one ever knew how to meet me halfway. "You're easy to meet," he told me once, hands in mine on a walk through the park. "You just needed someone who could match your quiet." And he did. Every day. Even the quiet moments felt full now. Sharing coffee in the mornings. Reading across the couch in silence. Brushing shoulders in the kitchen and letting that simple contact say, "I see you." One night, months after the tasting that changed everything, we returned to that same wine bar, just the two of us without the crowd. The host remembered us, smiling knowingly as he offered us the same corner stools near the flickering candlelight. We sat with our glasses, but we didn't taste much that night. Not really. Instead, we talked about everything and nothing: travel plans, favorite childhood songs, the first time we'd known we liked men, and the first time we'd admitted it out loud. And in a quiet moment, between pours, he reached into his coat and placed something on the table. It wasn't a ring. It wasn't anything extravagant. It was the tasting card from our first night, creased, a little faded, but intact. My scribbles, his notes, 2 fingerprints smudged near the bottom corner where our hands had touched. "You kept this?" I asked, voice thick. "I framed it," he said softly. "But I took it down tonight, just in case you'd want to keep it too." I reached across the table, took his hand in mine, and said, "I don't want to keep it. I want to hang it somewhere we live." He looked up at me, eyes bright. "Then I guess we need a wall for it." That night, we went home, not just to his place or mine, but to the space we had chosen to share. We curled into bed like always, but this time, something had settled deeper. There was no more wondering, no more waiting, just being together. We made love again that night. Gently, slowly, like we were making a promise without speaking. And in the morning, when I rolled over and kissed the back of his shoulder, he smiled and whispered, "Still tasting me?" I chuckled, kissing his neck. "Always, because some flavors never fade. They linger long after the last sip." And he, undeniably, was the finest wine I'd ever known.